Welcome to this explainer, where we're peeling back the layers of the verified accounts economy to reveal an absolutely staggering vulnerability in global financial parameters. Now, the rulebook for global finance has always been crystal clear, right? Know your customer, KYC. But as we're going to explore today, an industrialized counter-infrastructure has emerged that literally turns human identity into a cheap, tradable commodity. We're going to look directly at the data, the public forms, and the real-world prices that are fueling this shadow market, and we'll see exactly how it is hiding right in plain sight.
Okay, let's dive right into this. $10. That is often all it takes to completely bypass the sophisticated compliance checks of the world's leading fintech platforms, crypto exchanges, and online banks. We generally imagine that breaching a major financial institution requires, sophisticated teams of hackers, complex coding, zero-day exploits, the whole 9 yards. But the reality is far simpler and, honestly, much more unsettling. For $10, and sometimes even less, bad actors aren't hacking the system at all. They're just buying the keys to the front door.
And the crazy part? Those keys are actual people. Bypassing these systems doesn't require a complex hack. This is simply the shockingly low cost of renting a real human being's identity to pass that KYC verification. The industry calls these folks KYC actors. These are everyday people who willingly rent out their real identities. They provide live face verification, they authenticate their own real government documents, and they'll even handle the one-time passwords for buyers. They act as human proxies, completely subverting a billion-dollar compliance industry just by sitting in front of their webcams. Now, you might naturally assume this kind of illicit trade is buried deep on the dark web, but the reality is a jarring contrast. This market is actually booming on the easily accessible public surface web. Research shows that only a tiny fraction of classic darknet markets even list these KYC services today. Instead, this high-velocity trade has migrated to mainstream platforms you literally have on your phone right now: Facebook, Telegram, Discord, WhatsApp. You don't need a special Tor browser or exclusive access codes. You can find these marketplaces just by typing KYC into the standard search bar. Just look at this actual quote scraped from a public group. It reads like a mundane classified ad, openly recruiting individuals from countries like India, Kenya, Indonesia, and Bangladesh to verify accounts for just $3. It's completely transactional. Buyers post what platforms they need verified. Maybe it's a freelance platform like Upwork, maybe a crypto exchange or an online bank. And sellers in these groups just step up and offer their real identities for the equivalent of a cup of coffee.
And it is definitely not just single transactions either. Look at the brazen volume they deal in. Brokers are casually ordering batches of verified European fintech accounts as if they were ordering office supplies. Need 20-wise KYC, any EU country. This isn't a one-off favor for a buddy. This is a highly organized, volume-driven supply chain. These brokers are sourcing identities to stockpile verified accounts, which they're going to turn around and resell at a premium to scammers, money launderers, or anyone looking to evade regional restrictions.
So you have to ask yourself, just how industrialized has this illicit counter-infrastructure become if they're operating this openly? If brokers are ordering dozens of accounts at a time on public Facebook groups, what is the actual scale of this entire operation? Well, the numbers we found in the source data aren't just surprising, they completely redefine our understanding of how massive this security vulnerability truly is. The answer is absolutely staggering. A single public Facebook group we analyzed, acting as a hub for this exact activity, boasts 54,200 members. Think about that. This group, which is listed under a Vietnamese name targeting TikTok users in Japan and Korea, is essentially a massive open-air bazaar for identity trading happening right on an everyday surface web hub. When you have over 54,000 individuals gathered in a single public space, actively negotiating identity verification services, it demonstrates a terrifying level of public recruitment. This single hub alone provides the sheer volume of KYC actors necessary to routinely overwhelm and compromise the perimeters of global fintech companies. And the thing is, this isn't an isolated incident. There is an entire ecosystem of massive public Facebook groups openly operating as identity marketplaces right out in the open. The data outlines a sprawling network dedicated entirely to buying and selling verified accounts. You've got KYC Europe country with over 1,000 members, up to groups with 7,000 or 9,000 members focused on very specific crypto projects. These hubs are the engine room of the shadow market. They provide the massive liquidity of human identities that cybercriminals desperately rely on to operate.
These massive hubs provide the volume necessary to fuel what's known as KYC-as-a-service. And this model completely breaks the fundamental assumption of digital finance, which is the verified user is the actual controller of the account. That's the core of the problem right there.
Our entire anti-money laundering framework is built on the belief that if an account is opened by John Doe, it's controlled by John Doe. KYC-as-a-service severs that link entirely. The person whose face and passport are on file has absolutely zero control over the funds actually moving through that account.
So, what does this all mean? Well, this rented identity scale leads to three massive systemic risks. First, criminals use these clean, verified accounts to wash illicit funds, completely distancing themselves from the money trail. Second, users in restricted or sanctioned jurisdictions can easily bypass geographical fences by transacting through front identities located in permitted regions. And third, you have those devastating exit scams and rug pulls in the crypto space. The so-called founders of these fraudulent projects? They're often just paid KYC actors. So when the project inevitably collapses and the money vanishes, law enforcement is left chasing a 20-year-old in another country who was paid $20 to read a script on a webcam.
For regulated institutions, a traditional document check completed perfectly at onboarding might now just provide a very dangerous illusion of a secure perimeter. Think about it from the system's perspective. The documents are real. The face is real. The liveness check passed perfectly. By all traditional metrics, the automated systems did their job. But because the identity was effectively handed over to someone else immediately after onboarding, that green check mark of verification is nothing more than a false sense of security. The industry is guarding the front door flawlessly while completely ignoring what happens the very second the user steps inside.
But compliance teams aren't totally powerless here. They can disrupt these networks by treating KYC abuse as its own distinct risk type and hunting for the specific operational traces these actors leave on platform. Because these brokers are running high-volume businesses, you know what happens? They get sloppy. Platforms can detect reused identity fingerprints, like the exact same selfie or document data popping up across multiple, supposedly unrelated accounts. They can look for jarring device inconsistencies, like an identity being verified in one country and then immediately logging in from a completely different device and network on the other side of the world just minutes later. And of course, they can watch for behavioral shifts, where a brand new account immediately starts firing off high-volume, high-risk transfers. To truly fix this, the industry has to evolve from a one-time document check at the door to continuous assurance. This means combining biometrics, strict device binding, and behavioral profiling. We simply can no longer treat verification as a single event that happens on day one. It has to be an ongoing process. When you have public recruitment pools of 54,000 people ready to swap in at a moment's notice, a one-time check just isn't going to cut it. By tying an account tightly to a specific physical device and requiring periodic biometric re-verification when the account starts acting strangely, platforms can ensure that the person holding the phone today is the exact same person who opened the account yesterday. Ultimately, with human identity being commodified at such a massive scale right out in the open on the public internet, we have to leave you with one absolutely critical question to ponder. Is a verified account actually verified? When 54,000 people can gather in a single public Facebook group to sell their digital identities to the highest bidder, we have to fundamentally rethink how we establish trust online. The technology to secure our platforms absolutely exists, but until we address the human element of this surface web shadow market, the perimeter is going to remain vulnerable. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the systems we trust.